Hello, hello, hello. It is late on Sunday evening, and I'm going to get to the next step. Step 8. So I've been thinking about this one today because it's actually been a pretty long time since I've done a step 8. And it reads, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So I don't know about you, but I could have a pretty extensive list, and I definitely did the very first time I did this. I think when you do it a couple of times in your lifetime, or a few times, then you find, hi Deborah, then you find a way to pare down the list when you realize that you've taken care of some business, hopefully. So making a list of those you had harmed, it can be everything from acts of omission to acts of commission to thoughts about somebody that weren't too pleasant, perhaps. If you carry resentments about somebody, if somebody actually did harm you, and obviously they're probably not your best friend anymore, as that would bring you about to the whole forgiveness piece of it. So I think the main reason that I think step 8 exists is to relieve you of some guilt by doing, obviously, step 9, but also the process of recognizing that you haven't been perfect either, and you want to make some type of an amend to the people. For some people, they need to put themselves at the top of that list because they are not very good to themselves. So of all persons you had harmed includes you. So if you've harmed yourself in any way with some of the other things we talked about and some of the other steps earlier, when you've done that personal inventory and realized that you've been suffering because of either your thoughts or your actions, and you've been beating yourself up over something you did 25 years ago, and if there's nothing else you can do about it, you have to learn how to let it go, but you haven't done that yet, so you're still beating yourself up. That's someone you have harmed and are continuing to harm, which you don't want to do that. So you might want to put yourself at the top of the list. And we're not at step 9 yet, so we'll talk about that the next time. But making the list is the important part. So this is just about making the list. And it doesn't even have to be somebody you're willing to make amends to at some point, but that you are going to look at this as something of a cleansing, and again, for yourself, but also a recognition of kind of where you stand in relation to others. So step 8 really it's more of an action step in that regard. It doesn't necessarily mean there are other people that even know about this. Like, it doesn't matter whether somebody else knows about this or doesn't know about this. This is a personal thing. This is something you do for yourself, and it's part of self-care, and it's part of being good to yourself, to recognizing kind of where you stand in relation to others. And I think that's an important part of step 8. And so get out a piece of paper or a book or journal or whatever you're using, and start making that list. So if you're going to put yourself at the top of your list, that's probably a good place to start. A lot of people have harmed others in many ways, and everybody has done this. So this isn't about feeling bad about it or feeling guilty about it or any of that stuff. This is actually about just making the list, recognizing that everybody has done this, and this is part of your cleaning house for yourself. That it isn't about other people's relationship with you in terms of them knowing about it. So to me, that's important. And I'm at a red light here. I just wave some little hellos. Hi Kim, hey Charlie, hey Deborah. So I think that, with step 8, a list can be an ongoing thing. It doesn't have to be a one and done. So some people think of this list as like, I'm going to do it once, I'm done with it after that, and I'm never going to look at it again. But it can be part of an ongoing kind of reflection about where you are in relation to other people. And making a list for those you have harmed, I mean, you can go back as far as you can remember. There's nothing wrong with that. And for some things, you want to maybe not even be willing, and that's okay. So some of what I talked about the other day was you can always ask for like a type of a prayer or whatever you want to call it, to be willing to be willing. So maybe you're not even willing, even though that person's on that list. You're still mad at them for what they did. You still don't like what they did, or they did do some harm, Of course, that is what karma's for, but that's another whole topic, right? And I think that's one of the things that people need to think about as far as this goes. Okay, people don't know what they're doing here, so I'm going to go around them. I think they're standing in line for the Dairy Queen. Popular place at night, Dairy Queen. Mostly air in that ice cream. I'd rather go to pralines, to be honest with you. So when you are thinking about, the process of doing this, to me, what's important is just recognizing that you can put all these people on this list, and that they don't necessarily have to be somebody that you actually want to do an amends to, but that you recognize that you may have done some wrong to somebody, or by, again, we talked about omission or commission. Either way, if it wasn't the healthiest relationship, or if it wasn't the healthiest interactions that you had, there's no reason why you can't just put them on that list. And we'll talk about how to do this at the next step, but just being willing to be willing sometimes is enough to just open the door. And I know that I found that times in my life when that's happened is the opportunity presents itself, which is another piece of this. So my list has been checked off with a lot of people. And I concern myself today with not adding any people to that list, especially myself, but others as well. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really harder with family than it is for people that you probably will never see again or don't know, or that kind of thing. And I think that's something that a lot of people think about, is like, oh, well, I don't have to treat them nice, I'm never going to see them again. You're flipping somebody off on the road because they cut you off. That's not necessarily true, first of all, because you never know. But second of all, energetically, that's probably not a good thing to do, because it'll do more harm to you. They always have that saying about what goes around comes around. So you want to kind of keep that as in the forefront of your mind, and think about, what is it that people are doing to me, and what am I doing to others? Should they be on my list? And I know for me, I pretty much only probably, if I had to do a list again today, it would be a short list. I tend to be a lot more cautious about my interactions with people. Again, I'm still not perfect. Nobody ever is. I'm far from it. However, I am at least aware and cognizant of the fact that I need to kind of pay attention to what I am relating to someone on, what level, and that I'm trying to be kind. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and it was actually kind of funny because she found that rock that I posted on my Facebook page. It says kindness matters, and it was in with the flower beds at a location. And she had said to me, it's interesting that I found that. And I'm like, yeah, it is interesting. And then she actually said to me something that, kind of an apology, because I had said something about I asked a question the other day, and she goes, sometimes you're a pain in the ass. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I laughed, because I know I can be a pain in the ass, and I can be a pain in the ass to casual people or family or whoever. And but then she apologized for it, and I thought, how sweet that was something that she remembered and apologized for. And then we ended up talking a little bit about karma and energy and those kinds of things, because to me that is important stuff, how I'm relating to other people. And I try to do my best to not do those kinds of things where I have to make an apology later or have a regret later. And I'm not calling her out or anything. I'm saying I appreciated that very much so. And I loved the fact that she found that rock, because I said, I'm absolutely going to post this, and put it on Facebook, because it's awesome. I think it's really cool that it was on there, in that flower bed, And so anyways, it's funny how these conversations come about, and then you get to go a little bit deeper with it, and you have a little discussion about it. And that's why it's important to recognize, again, where I am in relation with others. And that, kindness does matter, and if I'm kind to others, then probably they're going to be kind to me. I know I have found that to be true. You probably have as well. And if I'm mean to somebody, somewhere along the line, that's going to either come back to bite me in the butt, or it's going to come back from somebody else. And that quote unquote meanness can come back. And so I don't really want that to follow me around, So I'm going to try to do my best not to do those kinds of things. I'm honest with people. I'm going to say how I feel about something, but I'm not going to, take anybody down with me, so to speak. So I think it's really important that, kindness does matter, so that I don't have to add people to my amends list, to my list of people I had harmed. I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do that, So I think that's an important piece of it. So making a list, however long it might be, is part of a process that is, I think, in my opinion, very helpful in recognizing that I'm not perfect, they're not perfect either, but this has really more to do with me than it does with them. So it's kind of, like I said, it's more of my clearing of my side of the street, cleaning up my side of the street. Starting that process is what making the list is all about. So I hope that's a little bit of clarity on it. And I think to me that I'm also recognizing, like back in the day, especially, when I was stressed or something like that, there were times I wasn't a great mother. I've worked on making amends to my children. To me, that was important. And I recognized that I had done things that were not in the best interests of them, or maybe even me at the time, but I did them because I was either stressed out or whatever the reason was. There's always a lot of reasons, right? And I just think it's really important to do your best with your children, to make amends to your children when you can, or if you need to. And, there's no perfect parent out there, right? You do the best you can on any given day, and some days ain't so great, Some of you know I was a single parent by the time before Crystal was even born. So, my kids are in their late 30s, and my son is actually 41 now. So I was a single parent for a long time, and I was pretty stressed about a lot of things back then. I was 25 years old, had 3 little kids. It wasn't a pretty picture all the time, and there was definitely a lot of stressors, especially financial. But I'm sure there were times where, to me, that was a benefit, where I'm the one that had to make those decisions. So it was that part was good, but there were a lot of things that I couldn't give my kids that I wanted to, and there were times where you wanted to pull your hair out when you got 3 little ones under the age of 4, and you're in charge of them. So I'm sure I screamed at them a lot of times that they didn't warrant it, but because I was stressed out, those are the kinds of things. But as they got older, something I heard a long time ago from somebody was, your relationship with your kids is a lifetime relationship. So you have more time with them as an adult than you do as children. So that's a really good place to remember to think about, is that you can rebuild and patch up that relationship as you and they get older. So that's a really good kind of way of looking at it, because sometimes I used to really be hard on myself and think, oh my God, I ruined them, or whatever. I didn't ruin them, I gave them the best start I could, and I'm sure I fell short in many areas. I think it was just a couple of years ago, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was reading a book about introverts, of all things, and which I am not. As anybody knows me, I'm pretty much not an introvert. But I was reading a book about introverts, and it was such a fascinating book to read, and I totally realized that one of my daughters is very much an introvert, and I apologized to her. So, because I felt bad that I had kind of pushed her into things, or I don't know what the right word is, kind of wanted her to be more extroverted, you know what I mean? Because my other two kids were, and for them it was easy, and for me it was easy because I already was an extrovert. I didn't ever think of looking at the world from that side of the coin, so to speak. And she was like, it's okay, Mom, and I'm like, okay. It just hit me, it hit me hard, actually. And I just thought, oh my God, I tried to make this kid an extrovert when she was really innately an introvert. So I did have to make amends, and to this day, I still think about that, because she's very good at being an introvert. There's nothing wrong with it. And I just think about, oh my, this is how she really truly is, and this is who this person is, and I don't want to put my way of looking at the world on her. So even as your kids get older, you'll learn new things about them and you can maintain or build on that relationship as best you can. So you don't have to add them to the list again, I don't want to add any more people to the list I already got going. So for me, that's important stuff. And I'm going to say hello. Hey, Cheryl. Hi, guys. I see a few people on here, I know. And so I guess that's pretty much most of what I've been thinking about with regards to being an amends list, and what I want to maintain in my relationships with my kids. And I know that for me, I want to have good relationships with everybody that I'm in contact with. So I'm not adding more people to that amends list, to that list of people that we had harmed. And I think part of it is I don't want to add myself back on my own list, because I'm hurting myself by my own behavior. So that's kind of my thoughts for today about that. And I'm going to sign off. I don't know where that sun is. It's up there behind those clouds. Can you see it there? It's peeking through. So anyways, signing off with, the sun is always here. It's always got your back. We got you covered. Just like your Creator does. So I love you guys, and hey, love yourself. Put yourself on the top of that list, and tomorrow we'll talk about step 9. Okay, bye for now. Have a good night.